it's Eric with VicBaggers Customs, or also known as VicBaggers.com for all you online guys. We've had a lot of questions on our new air ride kit for the rear of the cross bikes, the Victory Baggers. So just wanted to clarify a few things with our kit and show some installation tips for all those do-it-yourselfers and also the custom shops all around the country and all around the world. So if you guys want to come on in, I'll show you what we got here today that's included with the kit. First, we'll go over the shock assembly. It is rebound adjustable on the top. It has bushings on the top and the bottom already installed here. We supply a fitting for the airline size that you need. This fitting will be installed up here on the top of the shock body for that. So the kit also includes a bag of hardware, and we'll go over that just in a minute about which specific piece goes where. So we'll move on up here to the kit. Will include an upper shock mount, a lower shock mount, lower shock mount pin, lower shock mount pin retaining washer. There are 3 gold bolts. 2 have nuts, lock nuts. The longest bolt will be the upper shock bolt. The second to longest bolt will be the lower shock bolt with nut. The shortest without a nut will be the upper shock retaining bolt. The silver zinc plated bolt is the lower shock mount pin retaining washer bolt. You also have an aluminum bushing that's supplied with the kit. This is the upper shock mount bushing. For those of you that have cruise control installed on the bike, we have our cruise control module bracket. This is necessary to give the additional clearance needed for the larger shock. And for those of you who have chosen our kit, will come with the brackets and the air tanks for that. Great storage for air, really helps with the speed of airing up the bike and airing down the bike. We're going to move over here and I'll kind of show you how all the pieces fit together. We're going to start by explaining here. This rebound adjustment will need to face to the front of the motorcycle. It will face forward. You'll have your upper shock mount, and you'll use that longest bolt that we discussed before. Take the longest gold bolt, with the lock nut. These are 3/4 each side. You'll tighten this down all the way, get it good and tight until it's bottomed out onto the shock mount. This is how you will install, once this is tight, you will install this into the upper portion of the motorcycle. Before you install any of the bottom pieces of this bike, you will need to install this up inside the subframe of the bike. So once you get this up inside of the bike, your aluminum shock mount bushing will go into the subframe with the flat part facing up. This will go through the subframe. You will take your shortest gold bolt through the bushing and through the subframe into the upper shock mount. This will be the only bolt that you will need to apply Loctite to, as the other nuts and bolts are either Loctite or crimped nuts. You'll tighten this down inside of the subframe assembly on the bike. So once the shock assembly is installed and everything's tight on the top side, then you'll apply your lower shock mount. This lower shock mount will mount to the bottom of the shock like so, using that second to the longest gold bolt with lock nut. Now again, this is once the upper assembly and the shock is attached to the bike. I'm just showing you this for detail to kind of give you an overview of what this is going to look like when it is all together on the bike. Okay, you're going to tighten that down. You'll need to apply a jack or some sort of leverage to push this up on the bike. And you're going to take your lower shock mount pin. This will install from the left side of the bike as you sit on it. So on your clutch side of the motorcycle. And this is recessed here. It's got an angle to it. This actually goes through the swing arm, through your lower shock mount, all the way through to the other side of the swing arm. That's where your lower shock mount pin retaining washer comes in, and this goes on the right side or your throttle side of the swing arm. This will go into the grooves on the swing arm that are shaped just like this piece here, and you will use your zinc plated retaining bolt and tighten this down. Inside of this pin is a crimped nut that's welded inside of there, so it's going to feel very tight when you're doing the installation, as the crimp's going to have that additional pressure. So you may think that you're actually stripping the threads as you're doing the install on this. This is a crimped nut that's installed inside of this pin, so it will be it's not just going to thread in real easy. It's crimped, so you're going to have to really use your ratchet on that and get that in there. So this is kind of a basic overview of what it's going to look like as it's installed on the motorcycle. With your upper shock mount, again with the longest gold bolt going here, your bushing that's going to go through the subframe with the shortest gold bolt. You've got your airline fitting. Again, the rebound adjustment faces to the front of the motorcycle. Make sure before you install this is cranked all the way clockwise to the stiffest position. That's how we'll ship it out. Just make sure when you get it that it is all the way clockwise. That's what we recommend, and that's the valving is set up for that. This is your lower shock mount bracket, your retaining pin, your retaining washer, and your lower bolt here that goes through the pin. Next, we're going to move over to the motorcycle and give you some tips on the installation on that. Okay guys, here we are at the top of the bike. As you can see, we already have the seat off and some other components here. I also already have the shock assembly and dog bone out, but I want to kind of give you a brief overview here on the top side. This bolt here on the very top, which would be underneath of the seat, you need to go ahead and remove this bolt from the position. Go ahead and get rid of that. That's going to allow you, and again, the shock and dog bone, I've already got it removed from the bike, so make this video a little quicker. Get this removed. That top bolt is going to allow you to remove this pin. This pin removes from this hole here. It comes out. This pin is removed. So the entire shock assembly and pin is out. The next thing we need to do is remove the cruise control module bracket. This is the original bracket that I've already got out. Your tip over sensor, which is white, which is here. This sensor mounts to this originally. It's up in here. It's all holding the cruise control module bracket in behind, and the sensor mounts on top of this with a couple little nuts on there. So I've taken this out, and the way to remove this is there's 2 gold bolts on each side of the bike. I've got this loose to kind of show you here. 2 gold bolts, one here and here. We've gone ahead and removed those bolts, and that's allowed us to remove this bracket. There's 2 on this side, and there's 2 on the other side of the bike. And these 2 bolts are located right above the belt assembly. The 2 gold bolts will be right here. You'll see in this location. So once we remove those 4 bolts, that will allow us to drop out the cruise control module. Another little tip that might ease in some of this is there's a hole up here on the top side, and I've pulled some of this wiring just up and out of the way a little bit. This cruise control module is going to have to be rotated, and then we're going to reinstall our bracket. So let me kind of show you on the rotation of this piece here how that's going to go. So you can see here on this cruise control module bracket, there are 2 holes. These holes face to the rear of the motorcycle. So what we're wanting to do is we're going to rotate this module 180 degrees to where the flat surface is facing the rear of the motorcycle, and those 2 holes that you've seen earlier, those are now facing forward on the bike. What that's going to allow us to do is it's just going to give us that additional clearance needed to move this module up a little higher and a little farther forward. And then we'll be able to take our bracket that we've supplied with the kit, and this bracket we've supplied with the kit, as you can see, it has the bolts here on it for the the tip over sensor, and this is going to mount just like the other one. The only difference in our bracket is there's only going to be 2 gold bolts used, 1 on each side instead of all 4 bolts. So this bracket will go around the cruise control module like so, keeping our tip over sensor out. We're going to push this up into place. Again, might need to move some of the stuff on the top. And then we're going to bolt this piece into place once we get it into position. Okay, we've got our cruise control module bracket positioned, located, and bolted in. As you can see here, it takes the top gold bolt. Reuse the bolts. You will not use the bottom one, but we installed the top one, and that is on each side. If you come over here to the other side, you can see as well that we did not use the bottom one, but we did place the top one in this position. Also, if you look inside here at the cruise control module, this white tip over sensor is marked up on the top side. Make sure when you reinstall this tip over sensor that it says up on the top side up here. It will say UP, and that needs to be facing up, facing on the top side. If you have this upside down, your bike will not start. It'll think it's tipped over. So as you can see now, the entire cruise control module up in here, the entire module is in place with the new bracket. And what that's done is that's pushed that cruise control module up and pushed it in a little bit to give us the additional clearance that we need to install the shock. We can go ahead, we can push some of the wiring harness back down inside now that we've got that additional room already there, so we can put stuff back to where it belongs. Now we're ready for the shock install. I want to show you the difference here. We've got our upper mount already installed. I've got it tightened down. Again, the rebound adjustment is facing to the front of the bike. It is cranked all the way to the stiffest position, which is clockwise. The notch is facing upward and the bolt hole is on the bottom side. Our airline fitting is good and tight. And we have done, if you notice the difference between the 2 shocks, I have pushed the bag assembly up to the highest position, which is exposing our collar down here. This is going to make it a little easier for installation on the bike. Let's go over to the bike.